car notes. Got a couple more things. Nope, that's not the one that I wanted to talk about. Car payments. Are car payments too high in America today? Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get it rocking.
Car payments have reached record highs in recent years, and Americans are feeling the pinch. The average payment on a new vehicle rose 40% between April 2019 and April 2024.
Some people will look at this and they will say, are you kidding me? I mean, that's basically a house payment for a lot of people.
You know, we always had this idea that a new vehicle was something that was attainable for every American. Well, clearly we've moved away from that premise.
Blame it on high interest rates and high vehicle prices caused by pandemic-era shortages. The good news, payments have dropped a bit and are expected to fall further.
The average car payment is $760. That's not including insurance. That's not including gas. That's not including maintenance. That's just you making it. And that ain't even including and breaking down what the interest rate is on the car payment. How can an average American making what, $35,000, $40,000 a year, the combined household income is like $67,000 a year. How can y'all afford to spend upwards of $8,000 to $9,000 just on a car payment alone? And again, throw in insurance, throw in maintenance, throw in gas. How can y'all afford this stuff? If I was making $100,000 a year, I can't fathom the idea of paying a $760 car note. If I was making $100,000 a year, you think that I'm okay with putting upwards of more than 10% of my gross, not even my take home, upwards of 10% of my gross into a car payment? Shh.
We've reached a peak. We've turned a corner. However you want to say it, the affordability issue is going to get better.
The relief may only be short-lived. Longer term, industry insiders have serious questions about the...
Somebody said, Anton, if you were 26 in 06, I was 26 in 08. My daughter was born in 2008. I was 26 years old. I got married at 22 in 2004. I graduated from high school in 2000. I was 18 years old. In 2000 is when I graduated from high school. Y'all got to get the whole timeline straight, all right?
Direction the auto market
was born in 1982.
Is headed in. Vehicles were growing more expensive prior to the pandemic, as automakers shifted away from pumping out cars for the mainstream toward a strategy of selling fewer, pricier vehicles that pulled in more profits. Many in the industry say that might be here to stay, meaning a lot of ordinary Americans will be locked out. Here are a few numbers that illustrate how tough it has become. Just 10 years ago, car payments were nearly half of what they are today. The average is $760 a month right now, but quite a few customers pay more than that. A near record number are paying over $1,000 a month and have been for 4 straight quarters.
The idea of you're going to pay, $700, $800 a month for the next 6 years. I mean, that's insane. It just sounds.
And y'all listen. And now it's 6 and 7 year car payments. So they're stretching it out longer in order to lower y'all car payment. One of the ways that they finesse y'all, the biggest way that they finesse y'all, is they say this is what your car payment is. It's the same thing when they do it with houses. They say this is what your house payment would be. This is what you can afford as far as the payment. Listen, y'all, wake up. Tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Wake up, y'all. Okay? It's not about just the payment. Also, on top of that, your affordability is not based off of the payment. You have to start looking at how much you're giving over to the bank in interest. By the time that y'all pay off this 30-year mortgage, 360 payments, you've paid for the house 3 and 4 times over. And that's not even including all of the intangibles and the maintenance and the utilities and all of this stuff. By the time you pay off this car, and they stretch it out. When I was coming up, they had 5-year payments. It was 60 months. 60 months. Now they still saying, hey, man, it's based off of the payments. Now y'all got to pay it for 72 and 84 months. Y'all still going based off of the payment.
Crazy for a depreciating asset.
It is almost like borderline disturbing how acclimated everyone has gotten.
But everybody
to
feel like
ideas,
they need a car. That's stupid.
I've got 700. I've got 1,000. I've got all these dollar figures that other people will say, hey, that's my rent. Hey, that's my mortgage from 10 years ago.
So payments are high, and it's not just because of inflation. Car payments rose twice as much as overall inflation from 2019 to 2024. Two things drove this: high prices and high interest rates. High prices hit the used vehicle market first, where dealers can pretty much charge whatever they can get for a car. But soon they made their way into the new car market, which was hit by a severe shortage of new vehicles and parts. As manufacturing shut down around the world during the COVID pandemic, shortages popped up everywhere. First of cars in 2020, then of parts like semiconductors in 2021 and 2022. With supply so tight and demand so high, dealers and automakers didn't need to offer any incentives.
Jerry Lewis said, do you think that 25% of income on home and car combined is okay? I don't. I think that, listen, here's my goal, and this was always my thing. Minimize and lower the amount of money that you're spending on personal expenses and stop using your income and the money that you go to work for and you trade in your time for in order to pay for your lifestyle. That's the goal. The minute that you can eliminate the amount of money that you're paying for your lifestyle is when you get really rich, because then you don't have to pay taxes on the money that you invest in, and you can start to put all of that money into assets that you can write off as a tax benefit, and you can open up your businesses as a result of it. And then the amount of money that you break down, and I'm going to do a whole video on this. I'm going to break it down very much from a C-student perspective. The next video that I drop outside of Stock Club on Patreon, and I'm about to write a note right now, because I'm going to literally break this down for y'all all the way from a C-student's perspective of how it is that you can eliminate the amount of money that you're paying in personal taxes legally, all right? That you can eliminate paying in personal taxes legally, even if you don't necessarily own a business right off the bat, right? It is important for you to have a business. It is important for you to invest in yourself. But what I'm saying is the first step, and I know everybody want to say, oh man, invest in this, so you got to get into real estate. That's not it. It's a very, very, very basic step. The first step that you have to make if you want to get rich on a fundamental level, I don't care who is talking to you, I don't care what they tell you, is you have to eliminate your personal expenses. That's the first step. Half of the first step is eliminating the debt, because it's almost like trying to climb a mountain with rocks in your backpack. If you eliminate the amount of money that you're giving over to the banks, you then enable yourself to be able to deploy the capital over into things that actually is going to make you money long term. You're doing the reverse of what they're doing as far as the bank. So it's not, listen, the way that they sell y'all is this percentage of my income okay to be paying towards X or to Y? No, 0% of your income is okay for you to be paying to it. So the first step is to eliminate personal expenses. Why do you want to eliminate personal expenses? Because the first thing that you have to do is you got to go and trade in your time for money. So you go to work and you make whatever it is that you make. I don't care if you make $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $300,000 a year. In order to pay for that personal expense, you have to pay taxes on that money first, right? So they're going to get their money right off the top. In order to buy a personal expense, you got to pay taxes on the money first. That's why rich people focus on generating revenue through assets instead of trying to spend all of their money trying to impress people. And then they leverage their assets in order to use it to live the lifestyle that they want. I'm not going to break it down all the way here. I'm not going to get into it here. Y'all going to have to tap into the Patreon, and I'm going to break it all the way down from a C student's perspective. The money that you pay at the end of the year is not based off of the money that you make on your W-2. That's where people lose it. Oh man, I would rather be on my own business. It don't have nothing to do with just owning your own business. Your adjusted gross income, which is the amount of money that you make overall, whether it's from your W-2, 1099s, your businesses all together, they combine it all together. You file it on multiple different forms. Schedule C, W-2, some people just do the 1040 easy. Y'all go over and y'all just give y'all taxes over to people. They say, oh man, okay, so this is how much you paid in taxes. How many dependents do you have? And then they average the difference of what you paid in taxes. That's what you get back, minus whatever incentives that they have for you in order to vote for somebody in the president's office. We don't think like that as rich people. Rich is a mindset first because you got to understand what you're doing. And then you become intentional. And so the money that you pay at the end of the year, let's say that you paid all of this money in taxes out of your regular paycheck. But because you didn't have to spend any money on your personal expenses, you deployed almost all of your capital into things that is investable and also that you can write off from a tax perspective legally. Then you get all of the money back because they tax you based off of your adjusted gross income. So I'll use your 401k very simply as an example, right? Very simply. Okay, so you make $100,000 a year, right? And the tax brackets break down to where once you cross that $79,000, $80,000 tax threshold, depending on whether you're married or not, the tax brackets then jump exponentially. So people that may make $79,000 a year may be paying less in taxes than somebody that makes $100,000 a year. They actually keep it more. Well, you can eliminate that, right? So let's say I invest in my 401k. A lot of people say, only put whatever the match is into your 401k. Well, it depends. You have to evaluate it situation by situation. Well, why do I want to evaluate it situation by situation? Because if the max in investing in your 401k is $21,000, $22,000, $23,000 a year, which means that it's a pre-tax deduction. So I'm giving that money pre-tax without paying no taxes on it. You don't have to pay taxes on it until you start drawing, but it still invests in your net worth. Your net worth is still going up. It's still making money on top of you. I'm not just investing in my 401k because, I only get to match up to this amount. I'm a max out because if I make $100,000 a year, it reduces me into a tax bracket of about $77,000. So now I lower my tax bracket, increase my assets, and I pay less in taxes because my adjusted gross income is less the amount of money that I paid into my 401k. And so I'm keeping more of my money because I don't need as much of it in order to maintain my lifestyle. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm not evaluating it based off of the car note. I'm not evaluating it based off of the house note. I'm lowering my personal expenses so I can put more money in assets. And it's a lot of different asset classes. I'm putting more money in assets so that I can basically prevent myself from giving Biden bucks away. That's all y'all doing. Every time y'all make more money and y'all buy more stuff that's not adding value into your life, it's Biden bucks. And then they give it to Ukraine. They give it to Taiwan. They give it to Israel. They give it to social services. They give it to homeless camps. They give it to homeless luxury spending. They give it to migrants. They give it all of these things. And it's because you don't know. You're not thinking. You don't know any better. It's about understanding how money works from a C student's perspective. Every single individual circumstance is different. It depends on where you at in your life, what state that you live in, exactly what you make, what your tax threshold is, whether or not you're married or you're not married. And this is the reason why we have these communities. This is why we got the Discord. This is why we got the most powerful Patreon. In Patreon, nobody is messing with us because the deep dives into the money, the stocks, the ability to be able to start to put money in spaces that'll work for you, getting all of the tax write-offs, it begins when you're with a community of people that's like-minded that starts to think about what the possibilities are, and then they become incentivized to do the thing that's in their best interest instead of focusing on what their payment is going to be. It's not just about making more money. It's about understanding how money works. And so when we look at this and I say car payments or whatever, I look at this much differently than you look at it because I'm not trying to do it based off of what the car payment is. I would never buy a car based off of affordability rates or what the calculation is of what society is saying and what they're telling you on TikTok. These people don't know nothing. They don't know nothing. I look at these people with these budgets that make a whole bunch of money. They be making $250,000, $300,000 a year, and they be broke. This is what my budget is. Man, that's so elementary. We so past that. We running it up on some whole nother level type of stuff. It's a whole nother way of thinking. It's a whole nother opportunity for you to get rich and for you to generational wealth don't have nothing to do with how much money you make. It has everything to do with the mindset you pass on to the people that's after you that allows for them to become successful, and then they can take what it is that you built. It's not about them having money. It's about them understanding how money works so they can make better decisions and not allow for themselves to give more than they have to people that's not going to do the thing that's in your best interest. You are your own best interest. You are. I'm going to do a whole video. I'm going to break it down all the way from a fundamental perspective. The first thing I do when I get back from off of my anniversary trip is I'm going to pour into y'all. I'm going to give y'all all of the game. Every single thing that you need in order to be successful. Let me see if there's anything more that I can get out of this.
Charging at or above MSRP was common. Anyone who bought a car pretty much at any point in the last 4 years paid historically high prices.
Those same expensive vehicles, though, live in the segments that today are experiencing the greatest amount of depreciation. So you might have somebody who really scored 2 years ago. They went to a dealership, they got a fantastic vehicle, good price, but now they've come back and they didn't realize that the rest of the market has evolved.
And then, of course, there are interest rates.
Anyone shopping for a new car is going to get a fair amount of sticker shock when they see the price of the car along with that higher interest rate.
The Federal Reserve set its target interest rate at 5.25% to 5.5% in July 2023. That isn't the actual rate someone will pay for a car loan or mortgage, but it does affect the overall cost of borrowing. Today, auto loan rates are just above 7%. In March 2022, before the Fed started raising rates, they were closer to 4%.
This is a significant jump. Not only are people paying more for their auto loan, but they're also paying more for the price of the car. So that combined higher prices plus higher loan rates makes car affordability particularly challenging for a lot of people trying to buy a car these days.
In addition, an alarming trend has taken root within a segment of borrowers. Those who decide to get a new car when the one they're driving is worth less than the money they owe on it. Something called negative equity. The average amount on those trade-ins hit an all-time high in the first quarter of 2024. Almost 25% of purchases were made by customers with negative equity.
What is negative equity? Negative equity is basically when you owe more on your car than it's worth or more than what you can trade it into. And so that, again, factors into what it is that y'all look at as far as y'all car payment. Oh, this is what I can afford. The dealer ain't tripping because you just going to overlook the negative equity because you're going to say, oh, man, I want to trade my car and I want to get a new car, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, you got negative equity, but don't worry about it, baby girl. We're going to get you into a new car because you don't want to understand how money works. The only thing you want is to be able to drive it off the lot, make sure that you can afford it, and then be able to do what you want to do and feel good about yourself. So what they do is they roll that negative equity into the new car payment. The new car payment just becomes a part of the financing amount. They stretch it out for a longer period, and then you pay higher interest. And as long as you say that you can afford it, you'll take the deal, even though you know it's a bad deal, because you're basically going into another car payment with even more negative equity, and then you continue to roll that over. And then 3-4 years from now, you're gonna do the same thing again and the same thing again. And you basically putting yourself and you saddling yourself with debt for the rest of your life. By the time that you turn 40, 50 years old, you're trying to figure out where all of your money went. And went into car payments. It went into car payments. You're basically rolling it over because the only thing that you're paying attention to is the car note, not the length, not the negative equity, not the interest rate that you're paying, not how much money you're giving over into the bank. You don't even look at your bank statements to see how much is going towards the principal and how much is going towards interest. The banks are making a killing. They making a killing. By the time that you get your car repossessed, 14 years from now, they done already made way more than it's ever going to cost for them to actually continue to finance your loan. And then you're going to do it all again because you just worried about good credit instead of being more worried about the amount of money that you got coming out of your bank account. So anyways,